We're four-handed here. It's going to be 25-50 with a 50 big blind nanny, which I think is important for this hand. Also, it's a no-rake environment or time environment, so we're not going to be having anything taken from the pot. It's going to be 100 big blinds effective, roughly. I'm going to play a ton of completes here from the small blind because I'm getting such a good price with the big blind ante. And even some of my best hands are going to be limping along since, ace queen, pocket queens, even, because my most frequent action is going to be limping. So I'm also going to be limping some strong hands with this action. That's going to be my majority action here. From there, I think Justin's also going to check back a ton of his hands. He wants to raise more polar, and any hand that has relatively good amount of playability, he's happy to check back since I'm going to be playing some limp raises as well. So we go to the flop, and there's 3 big blinds in the pot. So 8-7 off seems just as good as any hand to complete, given the price. I think his check back with the suited jack is very reasonable. Gonna be checking quite a bit on this texture. We're both gonna have a reasonable amount of ace-x here. The middle pair seems fine to call here. On the turn, this is where the hand really gets interesting because before this, we've really only put in small bets. It was a complete and then 1 big blind bet on the flop. Now Justin's going to overbet. This is probably the most uncomfortable point in my hand. I know that he's a strong player who can bluff here for this size, and my hand can't really fold just given how many hands I've come to the flop with. Navigating the river is obviously going to be difficult facing another big bet. Queen of clubs river, and my hand obviously really wants it to go check-check. And when I check to him and he bets pot, it seems like he can still have some of his ace-x that value bet the turn for the size that he chose. And my hand seems like a really great candidate, given that I have a club and a blocker to some of his strongest hands, like full houses, to go for a bluff. I did run a solution on this, and I'm actually not supposed to be using my 8x as a bluff. But I do think something interesting about this spot in general is that all of these 3 factors basically led me to want to bluff the river. The limp pot from the start allows me to have my entire value range here, so I could have pocket 4s, pocket 8s, ace queen, even pocket queens aren't going to fold the turn to the overbet, just like I called with an 8. His range on the turn is basically bluffs or ace-x, right? I just actually arrived to the river with a lot of boats that would play this way. But yeah, the 8x is actually supposed to just call most of the time, hoping to beat some bluffs that Justin would still have in this spot. But I chose to turn it into a bluff. I do think the check raise river line is generally under bluffed by a long shot in live poker. I think double paired boards are under bluffed, and ace high boards are generally under bluffed as well. So all of those factors really led me to going all in, and hoping that his thinnest ace-x value bets would fold when they didn't have a club, basically. I think I got pretty lucky here that he ended up actually folding a flush, and it just shows you maybe how hard it seems to be bluffing in Justin's eyes for me. If you think about it, how easy is it for a player to go all in with a full house here? Pretty easy, right? How hard is it for a player to go all in with a pair of 8s or a pair of 4s blocking a full house here? I don't think you're going to see that as often. And whether or not his hand is a call in some theoretical solver land, I think that matters less than what he thinks about this spot and how often the player is going to be bluffing. And even myself, I can't even say oh yeah, if I just have a 4-5 with the 5 of clubs, sure, I can pick some hands that I would bluff with other than this hand too. Am I going to be having enough bluffs to justify a call? His fold is reasonable. Justin's a really accomplished player. Him folding a hand as strong as he is folding speaks to the nature of how these underbluff spots can overperform if you can find them. Like I said, it's very easy to go all in with a full house. Anybody can really do that. But to find a player who will go all in with an 8 here, it's going to be a special kind of guy. It's pretty rare you can show a card that's not going to completely give away whether or not you had it or didn't have it. And I felt like the 8 of clubs was kind of an interesting card because in my mind it lent itself to be a lot of value combos as well as a lot of bluff combos. Yeah, that's why I showed that. Justin's a good sport. Always like playing with him.